salute to all of you who have gathered here today, COCOMI, who has invited me, my co-panelist, moderator, media, and the audience via internet who are watching this program. I'm supposed to take a review of Prashant Bhushan, who was one of the key speakers at the Manipur Ki BAAT held in New Delhi on 18th February 2025. Let me focus primarily on what he says, what he represents, what was his ideological positions, what was his theoretical formulations or articulations, what was the intention, his method of representations, and what he stands for. Professionally, Prashant Bhushan is an eminent lawyer turned politician. But in this particular programs held on 18th February, he was representing himself as a mixed baggage of the ill-informed or ill-intentioned lawyer come politicians standing proudly for his client, and for various political reasons he have even forgotten his credibility as a lawyer, and they're full of misrepresentations and anachronistic representations. Let me focus on, these are all interrelated, the ideological positions, theoretical formulations, intentions, and method of representations were all complementary and reinforcing to one another. The victim, as Noni pointed out, is truth. He was not there to solve the Manipuri issue, but rather to exasperate the situations on behalf of his client. Let me say, ideologically, he cunningly tried to project himself as a man of principle, standing for something called Swaraj, freedom. And it's a worldview. It's a big worldview, and where he would be obviously saying that powers are corrupt, men are corrupt, everything is bad because of power, and my responsibility is to help power myself so that the idealhood, intent, latent present inside human being is recollected and reinforced through a political movement called Swaraj India. That's the whole ideological positions. Everything is bad except when our party will come to power. That's the ideological position that he has held. So he was with pro-anti-establishments, he was with Aam Aadmi Party, but then he was not satisfied with any other thing, so he keep on shifting. So there is ideological fluctuations in ideals and utopian articulations that he is. Theoretical articulations and formulations where he's tried to project himself and the message that he conveys and the implications that it could have in relation to the Manipur disturbance. Let me point it out. Number one, he says he talks about decentralizations of power. It means more power to be handed over to the deserving people who are claiming for it. He says, talk about a unitary state is not good, etc. These are all passing remarks, but something which I could clearly see. I mean, the intention is very clear. He talk about decentralizations of power. It means more autonomy to the presumed fragments. This stems from the assumptions that everything that existed before the evolutions of one unitary structures were segments, and that needs to be, given some kinds of autonomy. But then these ideas arose from his presumptions that the boundaries that exist in today across the world are artificial. This is a pseudo-anarchist position highly endorsed by scholars, Western American sponsored scholars of the borderland theories, which says that the tribes before independence were all independent. The whole idea of cross-border tribals and cross-border ideas and the demand for for a what you call borderless border. In fact, it says it should be borderless border in the sense that the boundaries that exist today are artificial. It should be dismantled. If there has to be a boundary that comes up now, then it has to be based on either ethnicity or based on common assumptions of being a nation or whatever it is. So he's talking about like decentralizations of power and autonomy, but then because this has to be carried out by dismantling the artificial boundaries that exist today. At the same time, it's very clever enough to say that, well, it's not timely for the established countries to dismantle their boundaries. Here comes his endorsements of Article 1 of the Constitution, where it says, India has the provisions to annex more territory, to add more territory, but no right to succession. Or otherwise, boundaries can be formed by parliamentary legislation within the country itself. So he's saying that, within the bounds of the Constitution. So he's trying to, projecting himself to be an anarchist in one sense, where they talk about borderless boundary. But when it comes to India, he would support India's territorial expansionist intention, plus keeping the integrity of India intact, but the possibilities of expanding more territory or the possibilities of creating more boundaries along ethnic lines. That's something that he is trying to endorse, and it has implications on the Joe-Cookie, settler colonialists who have been expanding for a long time. The problem with this proposition is that Manipur has a totally different historical context. These boundaries were not artificial. It's not based on any conquest, but precisely there are various reasons why this and the historical context, how this boundary was evolved. That's a long history. I will not dwell into it, but my only suggestion to Prashant Bhushan is that when he is dealing with the Manipur situations and when he is trying to show Manipur boundary as mechanically superimposed territory, that he needs to understand history. And his versions of articulations is quite suffering from imperfectness because of this eagerness to stand for the political cause of the client where he stands for. Therefore, these are the two main points that I would like to point out: ideological positions and theoretical articulations. Now the intention is very clear that he would endorse bifurcations of Manipur into various ethnic blocks, giving more autonomy to various divisive forces. But he fails to understand the context in Manipur and the level of the autonomy that's recorded or being sacrosanctly protected by the constitution, such as Article 371, Hill Village Authorities Act 1956, and et cetera, et cetera. He blindly jumps into the context and proposes a demand without actually understanding the context and the manner how different degrees of decentralizations and power devolutions have been enforced in Manipur, which is where he is trying to portray himself as a blind. Now, with all this intention in mind, his method of representation is quite interesting. He falls into the trap of what I would like to call, a dichotomous conflicting binary approach, where he tries to identify Meitei with Valley, Hinduism, majority, and culprit. And where he tries to show the other side of the victim as identifying with hills, minority, Christian, cookie, and helpless victims. This binary approach is quite dogmatic. This is where even the Indian left have failed to address the issues. These are already pre-existing and a very hegemonic template that exists in India, where it could have been successfully implied in many parts of the country. But the situation in Manipur is completely different. It's neither Hindu versus Christianity, which they try to show it as with some religious angles. You talk about the majority attacking the minority, or the valley attacking the hills, but truth speaks completely different. In the first instance, on 3rd May and elsewhere, it's the majority Cookie Joe terrorists who were attacking minority Meiteis living in those hill districts. Number one. And later on, it is the so-called minorities with sophisticated arms attacking the Meiteis in the Meitei-dominated valley districts in the peripheral and the vulnerable areas where they have been repeatedly attacked and their villages being plundered and looted. So these pre-existing domestic templates of showing the Meiteis as always majority, as always, Hindus and then valley, etc., attacking the Kuki, Christians, or the minorities. These are not actually valid when true information comes into being. These are some of the corrections that can be made. There are so many corrections that one can make, but it's not time, actually, with limited time period. I don't have to deal on what he says. All that I am trying to say is that he falls into the trap of borrowing a pre-existing domestic binary approach. This is what I want to say. So methodologically, he suffers a lot. Then, interestingly, his primary attack was on the BJP at the national level. He says like the BJP is responsible for divisive forces and etc. And when it comes to Manipur, the attack is not on BJP. Well, it's the BJP regime, but the attack is not on the BJP. But everything he tried to personify Mr. Biren Singh, the former chief minister, as responsible for everything. And when attacking, personifying the ongoing disturbance with BJP and leveling him with so many criminal charges without any valid verifications, this is where his credibility as a lawyer is completely damaged. And when he is trying to project Mr. Biren Singh as responsible for fueling insurgency, for all these disturbances that has been going on since 23rd March, he is covering up the facts. He is misrepresenting the situations, hailing one person responsible for everything, hailing the former CM as in absolute control of everything, that it is designed. That's what he's trying to say. He says, what he tried to say is that Biren is responsible for all these things, and he did it primarily because of his interest in illegal business, for power, etc., etc. While attacking Biren Singh, Prashant Bhujan doesn't attack the BJP regime. Maybe because there are many BJP MLAs among the cookies and he don't want to attack his client. That may be one of the reasons. But here in the context of Manipur, when he attacked India, it is the BJP regime that he strikingly in 1-2 sentences hailing the BJP as responsible for divisive policy. But when it comes to Manipur, his primary concern was attacking on the Biren, hailing him responsible for everything, distorting and covering up the various agencies and forces among the Kuki terrorists, and even the involvement of deep states and the security personnel who are reportedly siding with the Kuki aggressors. This is something he deliberately tried to cover by overemphasizing on Biren Singh. So what I find from the overall his representation is like his understanding of Manipur's history, his representations suffers from oversimplifications, anachronistic representation of history, and intended intentions to further dehumanize Meitei peoples and decontextualize the history of Manipur with full of bogus and biased opinions, trying to justify the demand of such divisive forces to create autonomous regions, at the same time blaming everything to the majority. When he was attacking the former CM as a criminal and an attacker, he was also indirectly charging the Meiteis as responsible because he identifies the CM with Meitei, with Hinduism, so and so forth. So by associations or by loyalty to the regime, it seems to me that he was attacking the entire Meitei peoples as responsible for the crime, for the crimes and the ongoing disturbances. These are some of the areas where he says he talked about the failure of the judiciary talk about a failure of media and criminal regimes. What he fails to understand is that when it comes to media representation, he is also one of those which I level in the category of industry of lies, standing for the client, standing for a one-sided view, representing a completely distorted image and trying to project Manipur in a totally different manner by selective representations of ideological positions and cunningly twisted theoretical formulations with ill-informed and underreported facts and figures, trying to show to the world that his clients are always right and the rest are wrong. These are some of the observations I would be saying. And finally, my concluding remark is that men like Prashant Bhushan, with lots of fame and all, should come down from these one-sided perceptions, rather stand for neutrality if he thinks that there should be solutions in Manipur. Now, Biren has gone, something which he had liked at all, and we have to see how and towards which direction India has to deal with the Manipur question. The situation still is under observations. It's an incubation phase. It may explode, it may not explode, but we will have to wait and see. But Manipur ki Baat, there is very little thing to learn from men like panelists like Prashant Bhushan, but he should come out with change for a durable order in the disturbed Manipur. And when I think I should wind up here, it's not genocide as he pointed out. And well, I am sure he will have a second thought next time when he appears for a complex situations like Manipur. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Now we have the last speaker.